There was a time in my life when I believed that one of the greatest things you could do for another human being was believe in them. Believe in them when they doubted themselves. Believe in them when they were struggling. Believe in them when they couldn't see a way forward. And to a certain extent, I still believe that. But there is a lesson life taught me that took years to understand. Believing in someone's potential is beautiful. Building your entire future around their potential is dangerous. And that lesson changed my life. For years, I was the person who could see the best in people. I could see who they could become. I could see their gifts, their strengths, their possibilities, even when they couldn't see them themselves. The problem was that while I was so focused on everyone else's future, I wasn't paying attention to my own. I had become so busy watering other people's gardens that I didn't notice my own was dying. By the time this realization came to me, I was exhausted in a way that is difficult to describe. Not tired from a long day, not tired from a difficult week. The kind of tired that settles into your bones after years of carrying things that were never meant to be yours alone. At that point, my husband had already been through rehab. I had spent nearly $20,000 helping him get there. Money I had saved for my future. Money I believed was being invested into saving my family. And I don't regret that decision. At the time, it was the best decision I knew how to make. I genuinely believed that if he could get healthy, our family could heal too. For a while, I thought we were moving in that direction. But slowly, reality began speaking louder than hope. The relapses returned. The promises became familiar. The apologies became predictable. The conversations became repetitive. Every setback came with a reason. Every failure came with an explanation. Every disappointment came with a request for more time. And because I loved him, I kept giving it. Another month, another chance, another conversation, another promise, another opportunity to become the man I knew he was capable of being. What I didn't realize was that somewhere along the way, hope had quietly become a trap. People often talk about hope as if it is always a virtue. But there is a version of hope that keeps us stuck, a version that convinces us to keep postponing reality, a version that whispers, just wait a little longer, give it a little more time, maybe next month, maybe next year. And before you know it, years have passed. Not because nothing was happening, because you were investing all your energy into a future that only existed in your imagination. I wasn't living with who my husband was. I was living with who I hoped he would become. And those are not the same thing. At the same time, our financial situation was becoming frightening. For the first time in my life, I was carrying debt. I hated it. I had always believed in living within my means. I had always believed in financial responsibility. And yet there I was, taking on loans simply to keep everything afloat, trying to make up for responsibilities that should never have been mine alone, trying to create stability where there was none, trying to hold together a future that felt like it was slipping through my fingers. One day I was sitting at my parents' house talking about how I was going to pay the next month's rent. Even saying those words felt surreal, because I had always been the person who figured things out, the person who found solutions, the person who kept going. But that day felt different. I remember feeling completely depleted, emotionally, financially, mentally, spiritually. I felt like I had reached the end of myself. And then a thought entered my mind. School. Years earlier, during my first marriage, I had wanted to become a diagnostic medical sonographer. I remember being excited about it. I remember imagining what that future might look like. But life went another direction. I put my dreams aside. I supported someone else's goals. I told myself there would be time later, and then later became years. But that day, sitting there wondering how I was going to survive another month, that dream came back, almost as if it had been patiently waiting for me. So I started looking into programs. What happened next still feels unbelievable. There was only one program still accepting students. The deadline was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks. That's it. And somehow everything fell into place. The paperwork, the transcripts, the entrance exam, the acceptance, the timing. 1 month I was wondering how I was going to survive. 2 months later, I was sitting in class. Looking back now, I genuinely believe God was opening a door I could not yet see. Because the truth is, I didn't go back to school because I felt inspired. I didn't go back because I felt confident. I went back because I had run out of alternatives. And sometimes that's where courage comes from. Not confidence, necessity. At that point, I was still married. I was still trying to make things work. I was still hoping. But something inside me had changed. For the first time, I made a major decision without asking for permission. That may not sound significant to everyone. For me, it was enormous. For years, nearly every major decision I made had revolved around preserving a relationship, keeping the peace, supporting someone else, helping someone else, accommodating someone else. This decision was different. This decision was about survival. This decision was about my daughter. This decision was about creating a future that did not depend on someone else's choices. When I finally told my husband what I had decided, he told me that instead of putting my energy into school, I should be helping him build a business. And I remember sitting there thinking something I had never fully allowed myself to think before. How could someone watch me carry this much and still ask me to carry more? I was already exhausted, already depleted, already carrying responsibilities that belonged to two adults. And somehow the solution was still for me to give more, do more, sacrifice more, wait more, believe more. That moment forced me to confront a painful truth. Belief in someone's potential cannot replace their responsibility. No amount of love can do another person's work for them. No amount of support can create motivation for someone else. No amount of sacrifice can build a future for someone who refuses to build it themselves. And perhaps the hardest realization of all was this: my children's future could not depend on whether another adult eventually changed. It had to depend on what I was willing to do now. Then life surprised me again. 2 months into a 2-year accelerated program, I found out I was pregnant. I had secretly hoped that wouldn't happen. Not because I didn't want another child, because I couldn't imagine how I was going to manage everything. The commute alone was 4 hours every day. School was demanding. Life was already overwhelming. And yet when I saw that positive test, I cried tears of happiness. Not fear, not panic, happiness. Because I had always believed that children arrive when God decides they should. And if God had chosen this moment, then I trusted there was wisdom in it. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I would. That season stretched me further than I thought possible. Long commutes, late nights, exams, assignments, pregnancy, motherhood, stress, uncertainty. Then came the emergency C-section 1 month after finally walking away from my marriage. Complications, recovery. And 5 days later, I was back in school. Not because I was fearless, I wasn't. Not because I enjoyed suffering, I didn't. Because I had finally discovered something that years of hardship had been trying to teach me. I was stronger than I believed, and I was on this high of seeing strength I never fathomed I had, so I just kept pushing on with my chin up. For most of my life, I had been focused on everyone else's potential, what they could become, what they were capable of, what they might achieve. Meanwhile, I had overlooked my own. School changed that. Not because of the degree, not because of the career, because of the confidence. For the first time in my life, I had undeniable proof of my own resilience, proof that I could endure difficult things, proof that I could adapt, proof that I could keep going when everything around me felt impossible, proof that I was capable of far more than I had ever given myself credit for. And that confidence changed everything, because confidence is not believing life will always be easy. Confidence is knowing that even when life is difficult, you will find a way through it. Today, when I look back on that chapter, I realize something. The greatest gift wasn't the education. It wasn't the career. It wasn't even the financial stability that eventually followed. The greatest gift was that I finally stopped asking, who can they become? And started asking, who can I become? That question changed my life. Maybe there are people listening right now who have spent years investing in everyone else's future. Saving, fixing, supporting, rescuing, waiting, believing. And maybe you've become so focused on other people's potential that you've forgotten your own. If that's you, I want you to hear this. Your dreams matter too. Your growth matters too. Your future matters too. The potential you see in everyone else exists inside you as well. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is not waiting for someone else to change. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is finally believing that you can. And if there's one thing this chapter taught me, it's that the person I had been waiting for all along was never someone else. It was me. And the door God was opening wasn't leading me toward a different life. It was leading me toward myself.